What defines a city? The roads? The houses? Well, not only that. You also need some spaces for public, civic, and sacred institutions. In Orvieto, the complex process of urbanisation was generated by profound social changes. The necropolis of Crocifisso del Tufo, built on the northern slopes of Orvieto's cliff, reflects an urban restructuring driven by social change. Let's talk about this with Giorgio Rocca, director of the National Archaeological Museum of Orvieto.
This Etruscan necropolis possibly dates back to the 8th century B.C.E. and is a sign of the presence of a settlement, which we cannot yet call a city, in the area of today's Orvieto. During this first phase, the power was concentrated in the hands of a small circle of aristocrats. However, in the first half of the 6th century B.C.E., a radical change occurred. The wealthy middle classes, committed to handicrafts and trade, together with the more active enlightened aristocratic classes, succeeded in overthrowing the small aristocratic elite that dominated until then. The settlement was then founded on new principles that reflected a more democratic and egalitarian community. The actual city was born. Unfortunately, we have no clues on how Orvieto, or rather, Velsena, was structured in the 6th century BCE. However, if it is true that the city of the dead was similar to the city of the living, maybe we can get an idea by observing the necropolis of Crocifisso del Tufo. After sweeping away most of the older circular mausoleums, which represented a legacy of the hated oligarchy, the citizens reorganized the necropolis with new chamber tombs, similar to houses that were laid out along straight streets to form an orthogonal grid, almost like a city.
An architectural organisation with a unifying character, designed according to a master plan set by the new urban authority, which expressed equality between citizens. But were there still any differences?
Yes, of course. Each tomb hides grave goods in different quantity and value, depending on the economic possibilities of the deceased. In one of them, for example, the householder of a wealthy family was deposed together with his relatives. Later, we know that the tomb was reopened to accommodate a sarcophagus with the remains of an elderly woman and some poor grave goods. There was speculation that she might have been a servant, perhaps a nurse, who was particularly dear to the family. Certainly a sign of deep affection, but also of clear economic and social distinction.
Another peculiarity of this necropolis is that the tombs can speak.
Not only that, it is actually the tombs themselves that tell us who they belong to. At the entrance, each architrave bears an inscription where it is always possible to recognize the particle mi, which means I, in the sense of I am of, followed by a name. Lartia ulkene vertoruskle, avile laukea, velkalai seke. It is almost as if the tomb is talking in the first person, saying, I belong to this individual. There are also names of people who came from other regions: Umbrians, Oscans, Samnites, Latins, and Gauls, who immigrated to Orvieto and integrated into the local middle class.
If you cannot read Etruscan, you should not be afraid. Tiber Pallia Immersive Discoveries will be there to help you. In addition to the 3D reconstruction of a tomb complete with grave goods, the virtual adventure will allow you to read these interesting inscriptions and experience the thrill of interpreting this ancient language. By the end, someone might just mistake you for a real Etruscan. You have listened to Tiber Pallia Stories, a podcast created by Italy's National Strategy for Inner Areas, Southwest Orvieto area. The podcast was produced by Capitale Cultura Group and Artglass. Texts, voiceover, music, and post-production were designed and produced by Ears. We would like to thank the Umbria region, the municipality of Orvieto, and Giorgio Rocca, director of the National Archaeological Museum of Orvieto, who joined us for this episode. To learn more about the ancient history of this territory, we encourage you to visit the archaeological sites of the Orvieto Amarino area and listen to the other episodes of this podcast. See you soon!